ladies and gentlemen. My name is Totalbiscuit of the WoW podcast, Blue Please on CynicalBrit.com. Hopefully you've had a nice weekend. I certainly have. So it's back to work right here with a look at the Stonetalon Mountains. You just saw the old map, and there is the new map. There's quite a few changes, and I'm going to try and take you through in as much detail as possible. Been reading up on this thing they call the lore. It's rather strange, a little bit weird. I hear video games have stories now. Not sure when that happened, but hey, we'll try and fill you in on that as well. Okay, this is the newly created entrance to the Stonetalon Mountains, and this actually comes in via Ashenvale. It's a brand new canyon that has been mined out by the venture company Goblins. However, all is not pretty around here, and this is a war zone. Even see we've got a little night elf camp up here with some sniper cannons. I'm not liking the look of that one bit. This entire area is covered in a large air force of Horde Wind Riders. Now, as we move into this area further, you may remember that there was a large goblin logging operation which was going on during the old world content. Turns out that is pretty much almost complete. A lot of felled trees, a lot of desolation across the board. That's progress, ladies and gentlemen. And you're going to see that this has become a flashpoint for some severe Alliance and Horde fighting. The water wheel's still there, although considering the amount of violence that's going on in this zone at the moment, I'd expect that to get blown up sooner rather than later. Unpopulated. Nothing really happening around here. It's certainly very odd to see the entire zone deserted in such a way. But by the looks of it, everything's been pretty much wrapped up by the goblins over here. They've cut down most of the trees, the sawmills are silent. That big robot thing is still there, we'll show you that in just a moment. But otherwise, they're all gone. Off to pillage the natural resources of another zone, perhaps. Now, you'll see these guys all over the place. They're called the Kromgar, and there is a fortress up on the ridge that belongs to them. You see the new Horde metallic fortifications there, the style that we've seen all over the place, indeed, in the Barrens as well as Orgrimmar. This is the Kromgar Fortress, the center of operations for this group of Horde military. You'll also see these Goblin Air Balloons around the place that are all carrying the bomb. Each one of them, in fact, is carrying the bomb. As to what you will do with the bomb, I don't know, but I would think that since it's there, it must be involved in some kind of quest, otherwise it would be little more than a piece of scenery. Now, as we've seen in several of the previous Zone Tour videos, there is an opposing Alliance camp fairly close by. This is a characteristic element of a number of these remodeled zones. Alliance and Horde encampments are put on opposite sides of a contested area, and on PvP servers, I would expect that to be a flashpoint for conflict. Now, as far as I can tell, the storyline of this zone appears to go something around the way of the Horde are pillaging resources in Stonetalon, and the Alliance have had about enough of it. The Night Elves, particularly, are not all that happy about it and are declaring war. There is a massive amount of Alliance versus Horde PvE fighting in this zone, and you'll get to see that soon enough. If you look to your left, we have the area that I like to call the Forest of Spidery Death. I'm not entirely sure if that's a placeholder name, but I would urge Blizzard to keep it. Right, let's move on over here. I'll have a look at Sunrock. Those of you who think that that's actually in the beta, sadly, it's not. Forest of Spidery Death, though. Think about it. What a brilliant name. Sunrock hasn't changed all that much. The paths in are still fairly similar. You see various different ways to get in it. Nice, peaceful enclave there. Okay, what else can we find? Now, cast your mind back to the old map that we saw at the start of this video. This area was absolutely not here before. It goes by the name of the Ruins of Eldrathar. It appears to have been uncovered by the Cataclysm and the changes in the geology of this area. It's a highborn area, specifically a bunch of ruins as well as some ghostly highborn and some ghostly owls for no apparent reason. I don't really know what this involves, but they are absolutely hostile to me as a Horde. No other information available on that yet, I'm afraid. I'm sure we'll find out more as the beta continues. Okay. Malaka Jin. This area was here before, however there have been some changes, so we'll have a look at it. This area is now quite a bit more important. It's an expanded quest hub. Now what you'll notice when we go in here is that there are a number of enforcers around here, and a mob called a subjugator, which makes me think that the Horde is trying to impose will on a group of trolls that perhaps don't really care for it. Interesting stuff, and some political issues going on there. You'll notice that most of this zone is on a war footing. We had a line of Taurens there, armed with battle rifles ready to go, and that is mild in comparison to what you're going to see. So let's go in here. Now, this camp used to be used for mounting attacks on the Alliance in this area. Now we've got these guys, enforcers, just wandering around in the troll camp. It's still led by Witch Doctor Jinzil, who used to be the guy that did so. But look there, Subjugated DeVoe. Interesting stuff. I wonder what's going on here. I would imagine this is a result of the spat between Vol'jin and Garrosh Hellscream that we saw in the troll video. He sends his enforcers and his military in there to make sure the trolls abide by his rules. Hopefully that won't last for too long, because Garrosh is an idiot and trolls are better. I sped up the fairly long flight to the next area, but you'll note the glorious sunbeams playing over the side of the area there. I'd like to just take you along the mountain so that you can see the border between Stonetalon and Desolus over there. Quite the contrast in terms of the terrain in places. There we go. This next area you saw a little bit of in the Desolus video, but I did promise to show you it in more detail, so we're going to do that right now. It goes by the name of the Charred Vale. You should remember questing here. Funnily enough, it seems that some of the Charred Vale has been reclaimed, but the stuff that hasn't has got an awful lot worse. Before this was just a bunch of charred trees, ash, and a little bit of fire on the ground. Now, it's a fully blown out volcano. New lava effects demonstrated here in all their grandeur, and there is a nasty surprise near the summit. No, it's not an elemental this time. It seems the meddling is coming from a far more sinister source. When it decides to spawn, we can have a look at it. Let's go above there. You see the lava now burning into the sea off the border coast between Desolus and Stonetalon. There she is. Yes, indeed. Member of the Black Dragon Flight, who is no doubt not all that pleased to see us. Unfortunately for her, she's a little low level. There we go, folks. The Cataclysm is over. You can all go home. 5 silver. The Grand Dragon of the Black Dragonflight has 5 silver? I wonder what the minimum wage is for those guys. Okay, so that's all of that, and we've had a look at the elementals. Cool, cool. Right, let's see what is coming up next. This is a large zone, and there's a lot going on. We're going to head to the north and explore a couple of new areas, as well as some fierce fighting between the Alliance and Horde. We're coming up on a new Alliance quest hub by the name of Farwatcher Glen, which is attached onto a much larger zone called Thaldarar Grove. Now, Thaldarar Grove is a bit of a war zone. This quest hub is fairly peaceful and well fortified, and is staffed by Night Elves, and there's a couple of Worgen in there for good measure. Now, it looks fairly placid, nothing to really worry about, but here's where it gets messy. As we fly northward towards Thaldarar Grove and the town of Thaldarar Overlook, there's an awful lot of unpleasant stuff going down. It's indeed an open war between the Alliance and Horde right here on the battlefield as glaive throwers and catapults kick the snot out of each other. Luckily for the Horde, it looks like the elves need to work on their aim a little. Namby-pamby glaives. Just throw a fiery rock at them and have done with it. That's the way you fight. No wonder the Alliance constantly loses. Once again, from that faction there, it doesn't seem like some of these guys have faction specifically. They're not named, they're just named generic Draenei Paladin. I would think that that's all placeholder. There's some very odd stuff going on here. The Druids, who are running around in sheer terror from something. You may see what that is a little bit later on. This town right here under fairly constant siege. What you'll have noticed is, particularly in the Farwatcher Glen area, there was a flight point. There's a lot of flight points around here. Makes it fairly easy to navigate. The Ancients are involved. There is wrecked Horde machinery all over the place. I couldn't really call it between either of them, honestly. The Horde has done a lot of damage to various Alliance areas, but the Alliance are trashing the Horde up here as well. Seems like the Horde are trying to put on a siege, and honestly, I think they're losing. That's what you get for trying to subjugate the trolls. Fools. Now, up on the top here, you'll see the commander of what appears to be the Alliance forces for this area, named appropriately, as you would think. Yes, indeed. That's Thaldarar, Master Thaldarar, specifically. We're now approaching Stonetalon Peak, and you'll see perhaps what's causing those druids down there to go a little bit crazy. Stonetalon Peak has been invaded by tentacles. You can find the source of that momentarily. The Alliance obviously trying to fight them off, but there's a lot of corruption around here. There are sentinels, as well as a bunch of slimes, and some fairly hostile Alliance here as well for someone on the Horde side. A few Sons of Cenarius and some Dryads knocking around for good measure. Now here's the source of it, by the looks of it. Nasty, unpleasant, faceless one right there. You've seen that animation before in the Barons. It's a neat little trick they've come up with, and no doubt they'll be overusing it, as they tend to. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Stonetalon Peak used to be an Alliance town, but as you can see, it is no longer. Most of the main Alliance operations have moved down to Thaldarar, and this place is completely infested and destroyed. That said, as we move further south, we'll note that there are a number of Alliance defenses still intact, and they don't want the Horde getting anywhere near it. Fly over here right now, you're about to see a bunch of very, very angry trees. There we go. 3 Ancients defending, holding the line there against a number of Horde forces. Their approach as to everything is to throw flaming rocks at them, which makes perfect sense. In the meantime, we're trying to set them on fire. Not doing too good a job of it. And just for the hell of it, since we now have troll warlocks and stuff, we're going to be summoning some fiery tempests. Hey, why not? Obviously, these animations are a little bit rough, but hey, it's a beta, and I would expect them to be polished up a little bit later on. Massive amount of fighting across the board, really, here. Now, somehow, I think the scenario is going to be a little bit miffed about what's going on. We've got a goblin operation of some description. It's called the Sludge Works. This is a new area. Yet again, one of those hot air balloons. We'll have a look at it in a moment. I have no idea what they're doing. What goblins do, I imagine, which is blow things up and exploit natural resources. So these ugly-looking bastards around here. It's okay, because they decorated the place in Christmas lights. I'm sure that makes it look all the better. I have to wonder what they're going to do with those bombs. Hopefully drop them onto Alliance heads. That would be wonderful. Okay, what else have we got to show you? There's quite a few places. I can think of something you haven't seen. Look at that. I'm sorry, that's great. You can't say that after 5 or 6 years, the graphics of this game are poor by any stretch. They may not be the most advanced, but they use a fairly unique style, and the addition of these DirectX 10 lighting effects has really made a difference in places. Alright, we're heading up to the top of Cliff Walker Post right here. Things have changed slightly. Specifically, they've had a new ride installed. Oh yes. This is their new version of the flight point, not bothering with any wind riders when you can have a rocket on a ramp. How about we take a ride? Just to give you a little bit of an FAQ for this area since we're about done, the new level range for this area is around 25 to 30, as you saw by the mobs hanging around. The area that you may have seen on the new map in the top right is currently empty. It's a new forest that wasn't there before, but there is nothing in it, so either that's phased or it's simply incomplete. I missed the Grim Totem areas, I'm afraid. It's been a while since I've been here, but what I can tell you from doing a little bit of research is that most of the Grim Totem areas are still there, but they're currently under attack by the Horde. As far as I'm concerned, it's about time that we got rid of those troublemaking bovine. that was just a quick overview. There's an awful lot more stuff here just secreted away in all sorts of different areas, so hopefully you guys will look forward to trying this area out for yourselves. And once again, big into the faction warfare theme that's been going on here. I think it's about time we got a chance to kick some Alliance ass. Looking forward to it. And my name's been Totalbiscuit. This has been the Stonetalon Mountains. I will see you next time.